In the 80s and the early 90s, I used to carefully trim the daily strip each day from my father's newspaper. Were you always aware of this international appeal of the character and of your strips? That on the other side of the Atlantic, some kids were always looking forward for the next strip.
And the other side of the Pacific as well. But I had no idea. You have to understand that I worked in my studio at home, and I would just get reports about how many papers were being sold, how many were being dropped, how many were being sold. And when I started on the strip, they were at sales of 500 papers, which was very successful at 500. 200 or 300 is successful. And I built it up to 900 papers during my career on it. During my 33 years, I was able to add 400 papers as a result of my work. But Lee would not give me that credit. He thought it was his stories. He was telling everybody it was his stories that were helping increase it. So what happened with him before I joined? How come they only had 500 papers? He didn't have 900 papers before I joined, right? So, but this was Lee. He was always blowing his horn. And I had no idea until I got out there. When I started to go to different countries that invited me. I went through Scandinavia, 3 different countries in Scandinavia. And I was amazed at the amount of people that lined up waiting for me to give out signatures. I mean, hundreds of people online. I couldn't believe it. They would stand there that long. And my 2 visits to Australia, I went there twice, and both of them were very successful. I did signing there too at a couple of conventions, and I was just amazed at the amount of people that followed my strip so diligently. Very surprised. But I really enjoyed the compliments that I was being given. Nobody drew it like you, Mr. Barry. He said I used to watch it. When I was a kid, I would sit on my daddy's knee, and he would read the strip to me. I loved it so much.
Yep, I collected it religiously.
Oh, really? You did?
The dailies, and for my generation, the Phantom is always your Phantom.
Really?
Your art and your Phantom.
I appreciate it. The thing that I saw that it really needed coming out of Wilson McCoy's style. So you know how simple and straightforward his work was. Very little angle shots and exciting actions. You know, and he didn't know how to draw that. He just knew how to draw figures. You know, and to put him in an active position and having one guy fighting another. He didn't have the eye and the creativity. And I've set myself up to try to get more drama into the story, into the artwork. Much more effective drama, more blacks and eerie lighting, you know, and special lighting effects and special coloring into the Sunday pages to bring out the mood more effectively. And another thing I was missing very badly, every character of Wilson McCoy's had a stone face, one expression, and that was a closed lip, you know, a kind of angry eyebrow kind of look on it. And I try to get real anger and real horror in people's faces. During the difficult scenes, and had emotion. That's the thing I put into it. That's what was lacking, and I think that's what captured my audience. Is that I did get those emotions in there. That was an element that was never there before, and I showed Phantom as a character that also had emotions, could get angry, and could show sorrow too.
Yes.
But it was playing up the expressions and giving it a human look, a human feeling to it, and it brought you closer to the character, by getting the emotions depicted.
It's very interesting because I do remember when I was a kid that one of the things that impressed me the most about the Phantom and your art, the way you drew it, was the ability to be simultaneously mysterious, tough, and very friendly. Very friendly. It's a very balanced character, humanely, and I think that is one of the keys of the longevity of the character. Your smile, the smile you have put on the Phantom's lip is something that's iconic. Will remain.
There was hardly any. I looked through years of Phantom, before I started drawing the script. I looked at it for reference on Ray Moore's work on it, the first artist, and then Wilson McCoy, and none of them had any real expression on the Phantom. It was that single stone face with a tight lips, no expression at all. And how do you do a character? How do you draw a strip and not get emotion into people's faces? When we're full of emotions all the time, it's either a smile or a smirk or one eye up, a sly look or a happy look. You have to get these expressions. These are human beings they have so many muscles in their face and so many expressions to be drawn. And every character had the same look and the same appearance, and they just had this one stone type of face, almost like it was carved. And I made it more plastic. I made the audience feel their emotions. That's what I thought it needed, and that was the element that was never there. And I think that they may not recognize it, they may not have seen it, but that's what got the characters closer to the people, was showing those emotions, showing the deals. And when the kids were being shown, the Phantom's children, the twins.
Yeah,
I got them. I made it feel like it was a lighter moment, a more pleasant and cuter moments. So these were emotions that go on when you see a couple of kids. When you're dealing with adults and suddenly a couple of kids are introduced, you turn to them and you look at them. You notice them. You have to make them a little different than the adults. They're always busy doing things, little bits of mischief, what's it? Little Kit is always getting into trouble, and he's always getting the little girl following him, and both of them getting into trouble, So these are the cute little things that if Lee Falk is writing this cuteness, this little these quirky little things they do, you have to make them look cute. You have to make them look a little bit mischievous. You have to get a little emotion into their faces. So that's what I tried to do.
That side of Phantom as a family man also is very, very appealing to a child, because it's always looking at the heroes as role models, and
exactly.
That's someone that is simultaneously strong, but good and friendly, and a family man. So there are lots of qualities that a child is looking for, that he finds on that humane side of the character that you worked so well with your art. Which were your favorite stories of the Phantom?
One of them was the beginning of the Jungle Patrol. Remember the story where he fights these different guys, Redbeard and the fat Chinese guy and the French guy and
Yeah.
and the black guy. He gets past all four of them. Then he finally gets to Redbeard, and they have a sword fight. And so when he defeated them all, he had them join. They were going to lead. They were going to be the original leaders of the Jungle Patrol. So Redbeard was going to be the general, and of course, Phantom is commander in chief, and the Redbeard is going to be the chief of staff, the top general, and the others are his sergeants and colonels and whatever. So, and then that's what started the complete Jungle Patrol that's still around today, in the story anyway. And we started with Colonel Wicks. Remember Colonel Weeks, rather, was the first general on the force, on the Jungle Patrol. He had a white guy. He didn't have a black guy. Later, he changed when he started changing the government in that domain, and he had a president and a vice president. He also changed the police chief to a black guy too, to a native individual. So he began to realize that he had to update, modernize it, and bring it up to date politically as well. The Jungle Patrol was my favorite, just about my favorite. There was one other that I enjoyed that had to do with Jean Lafitte, who helped the American Navy defeat the English. He was a tremendous help to the Americans during the War of 1812. Lafitte was helped. I think it was the time of Andrew Jackson's reign, the War of 1812, and they burned down Washington, the capital. They burned the capital down, and they had to rebuild the Americans had to rebuild the capital after they defeated the British. So this is a second Capitol building. So that's how the story ran, and Lafitte was very grateful to the Phantom. But of course, Lee made Phantom's role much more important than Lafitte's. Jean Lafitte took a different secondary position in this story.
I understand that nowadays you don't read many comics, but you are aware of the big impact, for example, of Marvel comics in pop culture. You were at the center of the.
Yeah, we were in the golden age of comics.
Yeah. Have you ever imagined that those characters would become so big all around the world and would take over all forms of entertainment?
No, I didn't see the electronics and the computers and games and all different other areas of the media. I never thought it would expand to that proportion, because I thought for a while it looked like comics were beginning to fade and lose its popularity. When I left there, it was in the 61. These characters, what's his name, Spider-Man and the Hulk, and those guys, Iron Man, and all those characters, they weren't even in existence. They weren't even thought of. They weren't even the beginning of an egg. No one had even thought of those things coming to a few years later. In fact, Neil Adams, who had a very, very high reputation in comics, he wasn't even working in comics yet when I left in '61. He wasn't even around yet. So A lot of the artists that came in later are the other guy that developed Spider-Man with Lee, Dick something.
Steve Ditko?
Ditko, right. Steve Ditko. He wasn't even comics when I left. I never heard his name before. I would have known his name if he worked for Marvel. I certainly would have known his name. I don't know when he started, but he wasn't around when I left. I don't remember him being around in '61, unless he was with a smaller outfit that I didn't know about. So many of the features that came out after I retired. I left comic book.
I understand. And as an artist, for you, you have told me that initially you thought about being an illustrator, and
Yes.
and then you went on to comics. As an artist, what were the artists that were your biggest influences? The people that you looked up to?
There were a couple of, I can't rattle them off now. There were illustrators whose work I really enjoyed. There was one guy who started his own school in Connecticut, Albert Dorn. Albert Dorn was a great illustrator. I loved his work. He was one of the guys that gave me the impetus to get more action. He painted everything with a great amount of action. You know, he was almost a comic artist, but a great as an illustrator. That's the kind of action he got into his work. And so there was Al Dorn, and there was another guy, Russell, I forgot his first name, another illustrator. Most of these guys did painted wonderful women. They were very slick stuff, you know. But I like the more adventurous kind of illustrators. But I did enjoy as a comic strip illustrator, the better illustrators. I did like Hal Foster and his Prince Valiant. I thought it was magnificent. And I love Alex Raymond's work.
You've met him, right? Alex Raymond.
I met them. I met them both at very early days in the National Cartoonist Society annual meeting. I met both of them. Yeah.
Nice.
And Milton Caniff, who did Terry and the Pirates and Canyon, Steve Canyon. Yeah. So I met those guys.
The Golden Generation also.
The Golden Generation, it really was. Great comic art. But I think Toth was probably one of the greatest creators of art, comic art, I should say. He was a designer. He designed his blacks and he designed his compositions. And when we looked at the full page, there was nothing that conflicted with one another. I mean, he had such an eye for space, and he was great. He really was great. He was better than most artists thought he was, as far as I was concerned. The guy had it all. He really had it all. He couldn't ink to save his life, but so they loved when I inked his work.
So true. A master also. In hindsight of all this, the years that went by, drawing the Phantom and contacting with your fans, what are the best things that you take with you? What are the best memories that you have of working with a character and of the contact with people who love your work and were touched by you?
Yeah, right. You know what I have to say? I have to say that after I retired, the reception that I received, the people, the kindness and the beautiful letters and phone calls and attention that I got after I retired, it was such a shock to me, so surprising to me, because I had no idea that so many thousands of people. Well, I understand that I had 60 million readers throughout the world. I mean, that was the figure they came up with. But to think that I myself saw thousands of people and who loved my work, I think that's the most gratifying note to my career is how I entertained so many people and had them enjoy my work, and the fact that they look forward to the next week of work to see what it looked like and how the Phantom got out of this situation. Just seeing the reaction, this marvelous reaction from people, and people looking at you with really with glowing terms, and little kids saying, "Mr. Barron, I love your work." Little kids. So I can't express how wonderful the feel, what an uplift emotionally it is to see people enjoying something that who would think people would get such a lift out of a comic strip. You wouldn't think that, but it was beautiful. That's the greatest thing I got out of my career. The appreciation.
Fantastic.
Wonderful.
Fantastic, Mr. Barry. You certainly are a very appreciated artist, and will continue to be for many years to come.
One thing I must say is that I love my art. I absolutely love my art. Through all of the difficulties and deadlines and obstacles that I ran across throughout my career, I absolutely love my career. I can't put it any better than it was my whole life. Of course, my family came first. Nothing was above my family. But if I had to talk about a career that I would have liked to do, I would have made no change.
I understand. I understand you are retired, but
yeah.
Is there any chance at all that you may draw another Phantom story?
I doubt it. Yeah, I doubt it. I would have maybe 10, 15 years ago. Now I'm way past it. I'm in another world now, I loved it. I still love it. I love doing the little commissions I get, I enjoy doing those things because it brings me back to my memories, and it's fun. But the fact that it doesn't have deadlines, it's a pleasure to work on. I'm sick of deadlines. I've spent too many years with deadlines, and I wouldn't pull myself back into it again. No, I'm so too far past it now. I'm enjoying my painting much more.
Is there anything at all that you would like to tell to the fans that may look at this documentary? The people that still love and enjoy your work. And
well, I would love to see comics expanding into many areas. It is already, and I'm delighted to see that it has expanded so completely. I mean, so many different areas and medias, movies of comic book characters, and more television shows, and a greater expansion, and the fact that it should take its place among the better arts in our society. It should take a place among the higher arts, like fine arts, because to me, I think it's becoming a fine art. It has so many uses, so many advantages and messages to convey, that it should really become part of our culture, but a more significant part of our culture than it already is. And for those young artists who are trying to break into comics, let me say to them that although it's a very difficult trial and effort to get into comics, It's not easy. I know it's difficult, and learning how to do comics is very difficult. There are some CDs that show demos of doing comic book work, how to work out panels, and compositions, and all of the studies that go into producing a comic strip or a comic book. But in spite of all the struggles, please keep at it. Don't give up. You'll have a lot of frustrations, but you're also going to have a lot of gratification in the comics field. So keep going with it for those young artists.